All right, guys, welcome back to Sports Betting Truth. We're going to start breaking down the last 16 teams right here in the NCAA Tournament. So let's get started right away with the matrices. So we got the Region 1, which is Gonzaga's region right here. These are the matrices. We have Gonzaga with about a 6 in 10 chance of making the Final Four and a 30.7% chance of winning it all. Again, I simulated the rest of the tournament 20,000 times, and this was the average result. So when we look at these, I'm going to go ahead and look at the region odds. We got right here on the book, I'm seeing Gonzaga minus 375, Creighton plus 2,000, USC 640, and Oregon plus 100. So when we look at the Final Four odds here, you can see Gonzaga does not have any value there. USC at 339 at plus 640. I think they are worth a shot as well. That's going to be your value play. USC and Creighton are going to be your value plays here. So if you're looking for some value plays in this region, it's not Gonzaga, it's USC and Creighton. Although I would probably go with USC at plus 640, so I'm going to go ahead and lock that one in. They're playing very well right now, and they have talent. Region 2, Baylor's region. All right, well, sorry, I'm cooking today. It's my birthday, and there's smoke everywhere. I accidentally cooked the oil a little bit too long, but anyway, moving on. We have Baylor, Arkansas, Villanova, Oral Roberts. Baylor has the best chance, 43%. Arkansas right behind, 3.35%. Villanova about 1 in 5, and Oral Roberts almost no chance. So when we look at the odds here, on the book I have Baylor's minus 125, Arkansas is plus 220, Villanova plus 500, and Oral Roberts plus 4,000. So when we look at that, Villanova is the obvious value play as well as Arkansas. Oral Roberts is not a good play, so Arkansas and Villanova are the value plays here. I think Villanova at plus 500 is a good value bet because I think they have the talent right now of a 2 seed, but they got underseeded because of the injury. But I think if they can get by Baylor, they are the team to beat. So why not put a little bit on Villanova at plus 500. I'm going to do that. Region 3, Houston, Loyola, Syracuse, Oregon State. So Houston has about a 57% chance. My model really likes them. They're the number 2 team on my model for some reason. They really like them. Loyola, 27.9%. Syracuse, about 1 in 12. And Oregon State, about 1 in 16. When we look at this, I don't see any value plays outside of Houston at plus 115. I'm not going to play that, though, because like I've been saying all along, I think Houston kind of games the numbers, so I don't have any plays in the region here. And then lastly, we got Region 4, Alabama, Michigan, Florida State, and UCLA. And my model actually likes Alabama more than Michigan to make the Final Four, but everyone has at least a 1 in 9 chance here. So this is the most wide open region there is. So when we look at this, I have Michigan at 195, Alabama at 175, Florida at 315, and UCLA at 750. UCLA is right in line with what's being offered. Florida State, no value. Alabama 174. So Alabama at 195 is going to be your value play here. Just barely, though. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and actually, no, wait, my bad. Alabama's 175. So actually, this is all pretty sharp. I would say if there is any value play here, it's Michigan slightly. Like I say, slightly. I'm going to go ahead and place one on Michigan at 195, though. I think that's a good bet. All right. And then I will go ahead and lock those in. Okay. So now that those regions are locked in, I'm going to go ahead and look at title futures. So we got Gonzaga at plus 120. I already have a futures bet on Gonzaga at plus 150, so I feel like I got a little bit of value on that already. I might just let it ride, to be honest with you. I think Villanova at plus 4,000 is somewhat valuable because I have them at 34.15. I think at plus 4,000 they're worth a shot. Houston is plus 800. I have them at 395. They also might be worth a shot. Although, again, I keep saying I don't like them on. I feel like their style kind of games the system, so that's why I don't like them. Loyola is being offered here at 1,800. That's right in line with what I have. I don't think Syracuse and Oregon State are worth a shot. So moving down the list, we got Michigan at 1,296. They are 1,000 here. Alabama is 1,000. No value here. Baylor is 450. Nope, no value there. Nope. So I think Villanova. And let's see, what's USC at? 3,000. I think Villanova, USC are your 2 value plays out of to win it all. So if you're looking for a long shot, there you go. I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some on both of those teams, USC and Villanova, to win it all. So those futures I just locked in as well. So those are the matrix that I played. So let's go ahead and start breaking down the matchups. So first game up, we got Loyola and Oregon State, so I have them right here. I have Loyola by about 3, a lot closer than you think. Loyola's 9 team on my model, Oregon State 41. This is going to be a close game, guys. Don't think that Loyola will run away with it just because they beat Illinois. I think the only bet I have in this game, though, is the under. So let's see what the total is real quick. We got 125.5, so I think there is some value on the under there. So what does both teams have to do to win this game? Well, Loyola needs to hit their twos, and Oregon State is vulnerable at two-point defense, and Oregon State's really good at three-point defense, but that's not really Loyola's bread and butter here. Loyola's very good at getting assists, but they turn the ball over because they pass a ton, and so when you pass a ton, you're going to turn the ball over, but it also leads to some open shots. Oregon State not really great at either forcing turnovers or preventing assists. Loyola does a decent job of getting to the line, and Oregon State gives up a lot of fouls. So Loyola, I think this plays into their hands with Cam Crutwig in the middle getting some free throws. Both teams play very slow, so like I said, low-scoring game. Oregon State's offense has been on fire lately, but can they beat the number 2 defense in the country? Well, we'll see. Oregon State doesn't really do a lot of things well. They shoot the 3 better than the 2, and Loyola does a good job at defending both. But Loyola does a good job at getting defensive rebounds. They do a good job at turning teams over and preventing assists. So this is a very tall task for the Oregon State defense. Oklahoma State and Tennessee, this is not. This is going to be a tougher defensive test. So I think Loyola will get over the hump and get to the Elite Eight, but I think it'll be close for a while. I think Oregon State's run is going to continue a little bit longer, but I think Loyola is going to put that flame out. All right, moving on to the other game on this region, Houston and Syracuse. So Syracuse, like I said, they're just a weird team in the tournament. You know, nobody knows how to handle that 2-3 zone. That's why they lose so many games in conference, but in the NCAA tournament, they seem to frustrate people. Now, a lot of people are going to point out to this right here. Houston is a great offensive rebounding team, and Syracuse is a very bad defensive rebounding team. But here's the thing. So is West Virginia. West Virginia was a good offensive rebounding team, and West Virginia also got to the line very well, and they didn't really do much. So I think that might be a little bit overrated. But Houston, this is a tough matchup for Syracuse, just looking at that rebounding stat right there, as well as Syracuse does a poor job of preventing assists, but they do turn you over, but Houston takes care of the ball. So, however, Syracuse does a good job of preventing free throws. So we'll have to see how Houston attacks the zone that they probably haven't seen before. And then Syracuse offense against the Houston defense. Well, Buddy Boeheim's been on fire from 3. They're a good three-point shooting team, and Houston is better at defending the 2 than the 3. So if Buddy Boeheim and the rest of Syracuse can get hot from 3 like they did against West Virginia, they have a chance. And also Houston does a very poor job of preventing free throws. Syracuse not the best at that, but that's going to be another thing they can do. Free throws, hit threes, they can beat Houston. I have it as about a 7.5-point game. Syracuse with about a 21.9% chance, but I think it's higher than that. Like I said, Houston does a good job at gaming the system. Moving on, we got Baylor and Villanova. So I have this as a close game, Baylor by 2. And like I said, Villanova might have Gillespie out, but they are still a good team, and we've seen that so far. Don't sell them short. Now, how can Villanova's defense handle the Baylor offense? Well, Baylor, again, the best three-point shooting team in the country. Villanova not so good at defending the 3, so they're going to have to hope Baylor has an off night. And also they're going to have to – what Villanova does best is prevent free throws, but Baylor, that's not really their bread and butter. So Villanova's just going to have to clamp down on defense like they have not before and hope that Baylor has an off night shooting the 3. But then Villanova, very good offensive team. I think they can get to Baylor's defense. They can hit threes. They can get some offensive rebounds. They can pass the ball. They're not going to turn the ball over. So I think this game's a lot closer than people think it's going to be. Villanova, everyone's talked about the injury, but don't sell them short. There's a reason I'm putting futures on them and have so much money tied up into their futures. This is a good team. Don't sell Villanova short. And then on the other side, we got Arkansas and Oral Roberts. This is probably the most lopsided matchup of the Sweet 16 on paper, but I have it at about a 9-point game and given Oral Roberts about a 1 in 9 chance. Now, Oral Roberts' defense has improved greatly. They did very well against Ohio State, not so much against Florida, and their weakness is still defending the 2. But Florida and Ohio State did not get enough 2s for it to matter. They also forced a lot of turnovers in those games, which helped a lot when it came to their defense. But it's kind of like Abilene Christian in a way. Oral Roberts has to force turnovers. And Arkansas not the best team at taking care of the ball. They're not horrible, but they're not the best. And also, I think this is a better matchup for Oral Roberts in terms of offensive rebounding than Ohio State or Florida were. But Arkansas, very good at getting 2s. They're not the best at getting 2s, but that's kind of Oral Roberts' weakness in this tournament. A lot of dunks for the 2 teams they played. But overall, I don't think it's that bad of a matchup. I think Ohio State was a much harder defensive matchup for Oral Roberts, and they got the job done. So we'll see. Also, these 2 teams have already played this year, and it was an 11-point game. So another thing to keep in mind. And then the Oral Roberts offense against the Arkansas defense, which is very good. This is going to be the toughest test for Oral Roberts offense so far, going up against the number 6 defense. What do they need to do? Well, Arkansas does everything well. They have no weaknesses. They have no strength where you say they're a top 10 team in that, but they have no weaknesses. So it's going to be hard for Oral Roberts to find the formula here. They got to take care of the ball. They do a lot of ISO with Asmus and O'Banner, so not assists probably not that important. They're very good at free throws. That's been what's won them the games against Ohio State and Florida, is just hitting all their free throws. They got to get to the line, which honestly Arkansas does a good job at preventing that. So this is definitely Oral Roberts' toughest matchup, I think. Ohio State was tough on paper, but at least Ohio State's defense was not that great, and you could see an opening there, but it's hard to find some openings for Oral Roberts here. So I think their run comes to an end in the Sweet 16. Nothing to be ashamed of, but I have this as about a 9-point game. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the similar matchups for the 4 games we have just broke down. Starting with Loyola and Oregon State. So the team similar to Loyola, about 2.5 points better than the team similar to Oregon State, about a 58% win chance and a 126.9 total. There you go. Most similar matchup was in January 2019 between Kansas State and Texas, with the similar team to Kansas State being Loyola, the team similar to Texas being Oregon State. All right, Syracuse and Houston. So the team similar to Syracuse, about 6.5 points worse than the team similar to Houston. The most similar matchup was in January 2017 between Butler and Villanova. Houston teams winning about 72% of the time, average total 137.6. So actually the team similar to Villanova come out on top here by about a point and 54% win chance. The most similar team did involve Villanova back in 2020 in January, and the team similar to Villanova won by 8.7 neutralized, so 9 point without the neutralization. So there you go. That's another slimmer hope for Villanova. And then finally, for the other game, we got Arkansas and Oral Roberts. And the team similar to Oral Roberts, about 9.5 points worse, so about similar to my other projection. About a 1 in 4 win percent chance for Oral Roberts. And actually, 2 of the top 4 favored Oral Roberts, one of them being Davidson VC, but Winthrop at Florida State on New Year's Day in 2019. Most similar matchup, 7.3 point margin. Total 152.5. So those are the similar matchups for those games. All right, and moving to the other half of the bracket, let's start with Creighton and Gonzaga. So what's Creighton got to do to pull this upset off? Well, I have it pretty close. Gonzaga by only about 4, but with an 83% win chance. I think it should be higher, but let's see. Gonzaga has a good defense, but I think Creighton has the offense to keep up. They're going to have to shoot hot like they did against Ohio, but it's not impossible. Gonzaga's relative defensive weakness is defending a 3, and Creighton can hit those. But that's really the only way I can see Creighton exploiting them, is just out-shooting them from 3 and maybe slowing the game down a little bit. Any team that's going to try to run with Gonzaga is going to fail, so Creighton should probably try to slow it down, make the most of their possessions. And then, of course, the real test is, can Creighton stop Gonzaga? I don't think anybody can, which is why I put a futures bet on Gonzaga. Gonzaga, who's going to stop them? They just have too many weapons. How do you defend that? If Gonzaga has any weakness at all, it's probably turning the ball over maybe. I mean, that's their relative weakness, but Creighton not the best at forcing turnovers. So I think Creighton's going to be overmatched here just like Oklahoma was, but I think Creighton has a slightly better offense than Oklahoma did, so I think they'll be able to keep it closer longer, but ultimately Gonzaga's going to pull away. And then the other half of the bracket, Oregon and USC, a Pac-12 rematch. These teams already played this year, by the way, if you want to look it up. I have USC by about 5 and about a 64% win chance. So the good on good here is the USC defense against the Oregon offense. Now, Oregon does a very good job at shooting the 3, and USC not so good at defending it, so there's an opening for Oregon there. Everything else seems about even. USC not the best at forcing turnovers, so Oregon shouldn't turn the ball over too much, but USC does a good job at keeping teams from getting to the line, but Oregon doesn't really do that. So I think that's Oregon's opening, is hitting 3s. And then the USC offense against the Oregon defense, a little bit more lopsided. USC is equally good at 3-pointers and 2-point shots, but Oregon struggles to defend the 3, so USC is going to have to hit some 3s, but they'll be able to hit some 2s as well. And Oregon should have a hard time rebounding the ball. USC, a great offensive rebounding team. And not a lot of weaknesses here. USC does turn the ball over a bit, and Oregon can force turnovers. So Oregon, if they're going to win this game, needs to force some turnovers, hit some 3s, and there you go. And try not to get killed on defensive rebounds when it comes to USC's offensive rebounding. And now let's go to UCLA and Alabama. This is a pretty good matchup. I have Alabama by about 4. The good on good here is the UCLA offense against the Alabama defense. But 2 contrasting paces here. UCLA is going to have to control tempo. UCLA does a good job at hitting 3s, but Alabama is the best in the country at defending the 3. That's a wash on 2-pointers. UCLA doesn't turn the ball over, but Alabama does force turnovers, so they're going to have to take care of the ball. There you go. The real battle here, UCLA's opening is probably going to be hoping they hit threes, but Alabama's such a good perimeter defending three. There's not a lot of openings there for UCLA. But then the Alabama offense against the UCLA defense, a little bit more lopsided. UCLA not good at field goal percentage defense, not good at turning the ball over, but they do prevent you from getting easy shots at the line, and they rebound the ball, so they need to prevent second chances from Alabama and hope that Alabama has a little bit of an off night shooting, and Alabama a little bit prone to turning the ball over. So this is a tough matchup for UCLA. Alabama's a good team, so UCLA has their hands full here. And then the last matchup, Florida State and Michigan. The good on good here is the Florida State offense against the Michigan defense. Michigan does everything very well defensively, except forcing turnovers, but they do everything else so well that there's not a lot of openings here for Florida State, who struggled offensively in their first 2 games. I think if UNC Greensboro hits free throws, then Florida State probably loses that first-round game. So I think Michigan should be fine here. Michigan's offense should be able to get some offensive boards, second chances against the Florida State defense, which has a relative 3-point field goal weakness, as well as allowing free throws. So if Michigan can get to the line, if they can make their threes, and if they can just do what they do defensively, they should be fine here. All right, so when we look at the most similar matchups on that side of the bracket, let's find Creighton and Gonzaga. So matchup 51, we can analyze that. The team similar to Gonzaga, about a 6.5-point difference, so a little bit greater than my Blender and Random Forest classifiers. Gonzaga with about a 76% win chance, which makes sense. The most similar matchup was Kentucky at Vanderbilt in 2017, where Kentucky won by 9.1 neutralized. But look at all these totals. They're all orange, so this should be a high-scoring game, just like the Oklahoma game was. But Gonzaga looks fine here. And then the other side of the bracket, Oregon and USC. We have the team similar to USC by about 3.3. Actually, a game involving Oregon here is number 4, the game which USC, the team similar to USC, won. But 62% win chance for the team similar to USC. I think people are selling this USC team short. There's a reason I put a futures bet on them. They have talent. And I think they match up with Gonzaga better than anybody left in the field, to be honest with you. If they can get by Oregon, though, it's not going to be easy, but we'll see what happens. But USC has about a 62% chance here, according to this. And out of the top 20 matchups, it's about 12 and 20 for USC. Alabama and UCLA. All right, team similar to Alabama, about a 3.3% edge, 62% win chance, and a total of 144.3. But the top 6 matchups all favor Alabama, the most similar being Auburn and Tennessee in 2018, which the team similar to Alabama won by about 14. So probably not encouraging that the top 6 matchups went for about 9.7 points for the team similar to Alabama. And you have to go further down to find the UCLA wins. So I think UCLA is outmatched there, and I think Alabama should not have too hard of a time getting through. And then finally, Michigan and Florida State. Okay, so the team similar to Michigan by about 1.5, 56% win chance. Total of 139.7. The most similar being Kansas and West Virginia last year in January. So this is a little bit closer, but I still think Michigan matches up well with Florida State. But we'll see. Anything could happen. But Florida State looks stagnant at times against Greensboro and Colorado. All right, so those are the similar matchups for those. And now let's break down, I guess, some potential Elite Eight matchups. So let's break down a Baylor and Arkansas. So I have Baylor by about 5 here, 64% win chance. So the Baylor offense against the Arkansas defense would be the matchup to watch. And Arkansas, like I said, does everything well on defense. But Baylor does a lot of things well on offense, but they don't get to the line, so they're going to have to hit shots. Rebounding, a wash. Everything looks to be a wash. Maybe Baylor hitting threes against the Arkansas defense. If they have a relative weakness, it's probably allowing threes, but they do everything well. And then the Baylor defense against the Arkansas offense. Baylor's weakness, as we all know, defending the three and defensive rebounding percentage, the hallmark of a 2-3 zone. Well, unfortunately, Arkansas doesn't hit threes. They rebound the ball offensively okay, not great. So it's kind of hard to find maybe an angle there for Arkansas. So I think they'd be a bit outmatched here. I think they'd be better against a Villanova. Let's look at Gonzaga and USC. That's a game I want to look at. So the number 4 defense against the number 1 offense. Can they slow Gonzaga down? Can anybody slow Gonzaga down? Well, we'll see. Unfortunately, USC gives up some threes. They don't rebound the ball great. So I think Gonzaga should be fine there. And they don't turn the ball over, but they prevent free throws. So USC does a really good job at defending when it comes to just like overall cohesion, but you look at their splits and they don't, they do a really good job of defending the 2, which is Gonzaga's strength, is hitting 2s, but they'll have to defend 3 well if they're going to beat Gonzaga. And then the USC offense, well, they'll be able to hit 3s to exploit Gonzaga's relative defensive weakness. They'll be able to hopefully get to the line if they want to win the game, but we'll see. Gonzaga looks good on paper here, but this isn't as tough of a matchup, or this is as tough of a matchup as any for Gonzaga, and I only have Gonzaga by about a point on the score, but about 71% chance on the win percentage. Let's look at Houston and Loyola. All right, Houston and Loyola. Okay, the number 3 offense against the number 2 defense. Wow, that would be a very good matchup. I have Houston by about 6, about a 2/3 win chance and 122 total. So this would be a tough matchup for Loyola. It really would. I think Loyola would be fine defensively. Rutgers kind of gave the game plan there. And if Rutgers didn't go full dumb at the end, they would have won. So I think Loyola would be able to shut down the Houston offense. The question is, would Loyola be able to score against the Houston defense? Well, rebounding looks to be a wash. Everything looks to be a wash here. Maybe free throws would be their path. Free throws would be their path, but they turn the ball over a lot, so I think Houston will be able to get some turnovers. So the difference here would be, will Loyola be able to offset their turnovers with free throws? That would be the decider. All right, let's look at Michigan and Alabama. Probably the only 1-2 matchup we're going to get. I have Michigan by about 4, and I think this is where Alabama would meet their maker here, because I think Michigan matches up well with Alabama. Alabama offensively doesn't do anything well except making shots, and we're looking at the best effective field goal percentage defense in the country here with Michigan, so I think that's the antidote. And then offensively, Alabama does everything well. If they have a relative weakness, it's a 2, and Michigan can make those. They can also make 3s. So I think Michigan matches up well with Alabama here, specifically because Michigan's such a good percentage field goal defense that Alabama would meet their match there. So I do like Michigan out of that region. And that's why I put a bet on Michigan to win the region. So those are projected Elite 8 matchups that we can look at. But again, this file is available for you to download in the description, so you can look at any potential matchup you want to look at. So I just wanted to cover those matchups here while we can. And anyway, that wraps it up for the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 breakdown video. Hopefully I'll be able to do Final Four separately when I get back from my vacation in Texas. So stay tuned. Anyway, this is the file you can download, get any matchup breakdown you want. You saw the bets I have. Speaking of bets, before I sign off, let me go ahead and look at the bets I've placed. I think I only placed 4 or 5 bets on Sweet 16 matchups. So I have Creighton against the spread against Gonzaga, 13.5. I have UCLA and Alabama over. I have Villanova on the over against Baylor, and also the money line against Baylor, and Oregon State Loyola under. So only 5 plays, nothing major. So that's what I have, as well as the futures bets and region bets I placed at the beginning of the video. Anyway, hopefully this is a good Sweet 16. Hopefully it's a good Elite 8. Until next time, this is Sports Betting Truth, signing off.